Being benign is never enough, but good enough is good enough. Hi, Randy Becker here with some other reflections from Spiritual Persistence. And I'm thinking about these times we're living in the midst of the COVID-19 crisis. And I keep wondering, what is it that I ought to be doing? If I just do nothing, if I just avoid everyone, if I try to stay as out of it as I can, is that being enough? Do I have to be on the front lines? Do I have to be one of those people who's working with patients? What is the mixture we need to consider? How do I deal with things like social media where there's so much fear and disinformation being shared there? If I'm avoiding others, am I focusing only on my self-care? Am I turning off my social media enough? All these questions come to mind. Ever find yourself thinking about the same thing in these days, about what's required of you when the chips are down and we're having a tough time? What would be a meaningful response to this moment? I wonder, are we being asked to be selfish or selfless? Does that mean we all have to be heroes or something less? And then I remember this from Rikkity. Make a positive difference. Otherwise, it's like you were never here, or there, or wherever. And think about this. If you live and do not do anything bad, but also don't add to the plus side, then in effect you're a black hole, sucking in more energy than you give off. Benign is not good enough. Beneficial, yes, but not benign. And too many people want to live with the maxim, harm nothing. But that's not enough. Neither is, if you can't say anything nice, don't say anything at all. So always say something significant. Don't worry about nice. Nice people had coffee while the camps were being run. First, do no harm first. But don't stop there. And of course, no one will get this all figured out in one life, but that's okay. So existing is asking, expecting, depending on me and you to do something more than just exist. So the question is addition, not just neglect. It's like dinner. Just not serving poison is not enough. And what would a gourmet life look like? You know, Buddha, Jesus, etc. Being benign is never enough, but good enough is good enough. It's not about perfection, but it's about being on a beneficial side of the scales. But you know, in our society, there seems to be such an emphasis on avoiding harm. Everyone from lawyers to clergy to our families seem to expect that we will do the least we can do in order to avoid, or is that evade, lawsuits, hell, or ostracism. Back to Rikkity. It seems often like it is all we can do to keep ourselves neutral, but that is because we have been trained to focus on negatives and sin. If you were to accept that being human is to be fallible, then you could, through that acceptance, begin to focus on potential for good. Okay, take a hot rock and put it in one hand, and take a cold rock and put it in the other. You will automatically sense where the midpoint is. Now make it a cold and a freezing rock, and you will sense a different midpoint. So if your focus is between evil and benign, the best you can hope for is not too evil. But if it's between benign and beneficial, then you are automatically on the positive side. You, and I mean each person, decides what the scale will be. It's not a product of circumstances, or else everyone from a situation would turn out the same. What a notion, that shifting the scale of expectation from neutrality towards something more is in our hands, in our choices. Finding a way to focus beyond the least and envision the more. There's the challenge. So choose your focus. I've said that before. We can't choose what happens to us, but we can choose how we react. Ponder away. And so some questions for us all. What would it mean for you right now in these circumstances to add something to existence? How could you shift your focus and understanding so you're creating more than simply avoiding. How are you choosing to react to what is happening now? To minimize loss or to accentuate possibility? I hope this point to ponder and our pondering is helpful to you in these times. And I invite you to go to sp-blog.org for more pieces to ponder and thoughts to think about and a place to interchange and interact with us. Till next time, Randy Becker here, pondering on.